Hello, and welcome to Making Creativity Pay, the podcast where we talk to people in creative industries about how they promote and market their work. I'm Dan Barnett, and on this episode we'll be speaking to comedian and writer Juliette Burton about her show No Brainer. We talk about her experiences at the Edinburgh Fringe, what she's expecting from the Fringe after being away since 2019, and how she uses both online and offline methods to draw an audience, and the importance to her to have activism within her comedy. We'll also be talking about her podcast, Not So Lonely Planet, where she talks to, in her word, nerds about a specific passion they have and how the podcast came about. We started out by talking about what first attracted her to comedy.
So I always loved comedy. No one around me really liked comedy in my childhood, but I naturally discovered it and I was drawn to it, I believe, as a survival technique. And because I was, diagnosed with lots of mental health conditions and was in a lot of mental health distress from quite an early age, seeking out comedy to watch and consume and analyze was kind of this thing that I adored and gave me so much of what I was looking for. And to turn it into a profession, well, after being in and out of hospital for mental illnesses, which interrupted my education, I actually studied media. I studied journalism because it turned out I didn't need to have any qualifications to do that. I just had to write a really excellent personal statement, which got me into the university. That led me to work as a journalist for magazines and for newspapers, and then as a radio broadcast journalist, which led me to do voiceover work because I had a good voice, good ear, good for accents, good for mimicking. And that led me to do more acting, which led me to be cast as either sex interest or love interest. And I thought that's a bit dull because I want to have a personality. So I started writing with one of my best friends. He's still one of my best friends. Back in 2011, we wrote an Edinburgh Fringe show as a double-hander. It was a huge success, a surprise success. It was very much a surprise to us. We were not expecting it to be that popular with people, but we were cramming people into this free Fringe venue. Nowadays would not be allowed, but it was a 60-seater and we were cramming like 100 people in there every day. And it was lovely. And that then led me to write more. And one year I said, look, I've got this idea for a show. And she said, I think that sounds like your story rather than mine. And that was my first solo show, which I did in Edinburgh in 2013. And I got subsequently with that show and other shows, I've had the honour of getting, not every time, but for many times, Arts Council grants for the research and development of them. And that forwarded me the opportunity to pay excellent comedy directors, comedy writers to collaborate with and help me hone what it was I was exploring. The Arts Council technically doesn't fund comedy, but the fact that my shows are theatre mixed with comedy, so it's theatre using comedy as a device to help people find the topics more accessible. That is alongside me just doing stand-up. So the shows are sort of slightly different to just pure stand-up routines, but they involve a lot of my stand-up routines.
It was interesting listening to you on Radio Surrey. It was very kind of old school kind of thing of 10 minutes. It was really, really impressive. You kind of hit your points. I could see, you kind of what to say about, you kind of sold out the show previously, where you were, what time it was on, all this kind of stuff. It was kind of, I couldn't do that at 7:20 in the morning.
But as you said, that's old school. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently. So it's because things are changing and I'm interested to discuss it actually, because it's something that's evolving in society in general. And it's something that I know I kind of hit a sweet spot a few years ago with understanding it and naturally being strong with the strategies that I was using that were working. And then some of things have now shifted both personally, professionally and societally mostly, that has sort of raised some questions about how to develop that part of the creative practice for me.
So you're well experienced at Edinburgh. You've done it for a number of years. One of the kind of themes we've had with previous guests is kind of how it's changed just in general over time, not just because of the pandemic.
It's the reason that I got into comedy and it's the reason that I had a career, really. The first time I went up to Edinburgh was in 2005, but that was as a reviewer and I fell in love with it. It was the first place I'd ever felt like I was at home, really. And I now recognise that's partly to do with the city. So I subsequently moved up there for 4 years, and then partly to do with the festival spirit itself, and partly to do with creatives and what creatives are, who creatives are, because I've had a similar feeling performing at Adelaide Fringe, Melbourne International Comedy Festival, the New Zealand International Comedy Festival. It's just felt like there was a fit, like a natural fit, like I'd found my tribe finally. I don't naturally find myself at ease as a team player. And yet with a Fringe family, it's all of us are like that. None of us are. We're all little satellites, on the fringes of society, all of us sort of commenting on it and creating art. I believe comedy is art. I do know of comedians who passionately disagree with me and have done so in front of an audience. But for me, I believe comedy is an art form. It moves people from one position to another because it's the quickest way. A joke is the quickest way of changing somebody's mind, in my opinion. And I've used that for sure.
Impacting someone's emotion, then surely, yes, that is kind of what art is.
Well, it also changes people's political stance. It can change people's moods, but it can also change people's points of view, perspectives, attitudes, sometimes even their politics. It's if you're laughing at something, then because a joke has always got a twist. It's the setup and then the punchline. The setup is leading you down the road of tension, and then the laughter is the relief when the tension is broken, and the punchline is that surprise twist that breaks that tension. So if you're twisting somebody's perspective in a joke, that's what you're doing, is you're leading them down one pathway and that then pulling the rug from underneath them. And that is a very slick way of getting their minds to open up just a little bit more to a different perspective. So 2005 as a reviewer, but the first time I performed up there with a show that I was taking up there, so I performed in other people's shows prior to that, was 2011. And as I say, it was a free Fringe venue where we were cramming way more people in. People were incredibly generous. Like the whole attitude of, I think our attitude then was, if you enjoyed the show, that's fantastic. That's really all we want. If you enjoyed the show and you have some money, that's amazing. Please feel free to donate to us. But as writers, as performers, we were always saying to each other that we just want to give people a great time, help them leave feeling a little bit happier and more connected, and hopefully have felt something and laugh. And if we make some money from it, that's amazing. But I think people can go to those free Fringe shows with no expectations back then anyway. And then if you were delighted by it and it was quality, then they would say thank you with money. Nowadays, I think there's almost like this expectation that even the free Fringe shows have to be super perfect and wonderful. And if they're not, then people will complain and very openly complain. And I think that's slightly changed thanks to social media. This is one of the big picture things. There's lots of big picture things I've been thinking about, because I started off doing free Fringe. Then I started performing at the Gilded Balloon, who I love as a venue. They're the only female-run, female-led venue of the big four up there. They are the only ones that stay in Edinburgh the whole year. They're based there. They were just based around the corner from where I was living when I was up there. So I really did pledge allegiance to them. And I'm still performing up there with them this year. But that is a paid-for venue. And when I started performing in those venues, yes, I got the amazing support of that team. And I am somebody who needs a family. And I say a family, I mean a Fringe family, as I mentioned earlier, who can give you that kind of steadfast, safe space. And the number of times, I fly for like hours, and being able to go into the box office team and just sit there and say, this person was just incredibly rude to me out there on the streets, or this person was incredibly sexist, or this person just made I feel like crap. And whatever it is, they are a part of that team, that journey, that collective experience of the Fringe. So you get that support, you get and I believe passionately that the audience experience, whether it's a free Fringe show or a paid for venue, the audience experience has to be tantamount to everything else. Like the actual show needs to be great as well, but the audience experience needs to be, they're able to be transported to somewhere completely different and away from the world that we live in, no matter what is going on in society. And there's been a lot of things that have been going on in society every year that I've been going up there.
We mentioned Flyer in there. We've spoken about being on the radio. I mean, how much now for this Fringe is going to be more traditional marketing versus social, email, Facebook, whatever it may be? Is there still room for the kind of traditional? Because I mean, I was talking to one of my other guests talking about Flyer last year. They thought they were going to probably cut back in the future on those kind of things, that they're not as effective as they used to be, and that a lot more people have kind of made their decision already when they're up there.
I mean, I haven't been up for 4 years, so I don't know anymore exactly how much flyering is effective. I still love flyering, and when I say I love flyering, I mean I like to get out there and chat to people, because I like to meet people and find out what their experience of the Fringe is. And I like to, if they like me when I'm flyering them, then they're going to like the show. And it's like I'm giving them a little taster of what they're in for an hour if they come to my show, which I still love. I don't know, though, is the answer. I was still doing that when I was last up there in 2019, and I still found it effective. But again, it depends on how you fly it. It's not a numbers game for me. It's a quality game. I'm going to stand and really invest in this connection with you right now. And because I also want the right people in my audience, because we become a little team for an hour. That's how I view it. But again, things have changed. So I know back in when I sold out 4 years in a row, and I had multiple sellouts in 2019 as well. I used social media in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19, but it was changing in a very different way to what I'm doing now. So I would be on there. My whole routine every day would be online, searching for #EdFringe, being very careful and cautious, unlike some other people who are already tagging me when I use the #EdFringe as if I'm looking for shows to see, which is not what I'm asking for. But being very careful and cautious about what it is they're asking. Are they looking for recommendations? I sometimes would look at their profile on specifically Twitter and just see like what they're into, what other shows they've seen. And then on Twitter, be like, again, quality versus quantity of like, hi, I genuinely think you might enjoy this show because it's got these themes and you seem to be somebody who's interested in this, this, and this. I think you might like it. And that I've actually made like lifelong friends because of that. Like one of my sincerely dear friends that we message most days, he came to see the show because I did that back in 2015. He's seen all my shows since, and he ended up doing flyer design for me. So that was how I used to do it, like out on the streets and in during the daytime, so in the mornings, social media, evenings, social media, flyering before the show, and then chilling just immediately after the show before going to bed because I'm not a massive partier. But the social media thing shifted during the pandemic. I realized I started to lose myself within it. Like I did a lot of deep work on myself and realized that I was telling a narrative on stage fit for public consumption, and I was using social media as a kind of seeking a sense of mirror self. So trying to seek validation. And I did a lot of work on myself. And I even questioned, do I want to continue in the arts or as a comedian? And there was something in me that was like, I can't not. It's just a part of who I am. It's once I did that work and I started meeting those needs in other ways, it became less about chasing something and more about emanating something. So yeah, there's a social cause, or usually in my shows, there's always a bit of an activist in me and who I am. I want the world to be a better place. But now a part of that is I don't like this commercialization that's happened. Like, yes, we need to sell tickets and make money, but so much of not only social media, and this is the big point I wanted to make, social media, I feel, has now been like, we've fed the beast. It's become a part of the problem, right? The algorithms, the things that the man, or whatever you want to call it, the algorithms, the man, have cottoned on to what is popular. Like even for me, it was a few years ago, #mental health, #mental health awareness, #be kind. And that got me really popular. You know, it got me a lot of traction in like 2016, 17, 18. #body confidence, 2015. It was all those things that was like, it was hot topics. And I was kind of riding the wave without realizing the wave was even there. Then I now look at it and go, well, every time I use #mental health awareness, I get bots picking up, and it's the algorithm as we've fed the beast so much that they've gone, we can capitalize on this. We can sell t-shirts, we can sell this, and as soon as it becomes commercialized, then it's shifted, it's broken. And unfortunately, I feel that with the Fringe now. The reason I love the Fringe is because comedians are meant to discuss what is on the fringes of society, right? The whole point of a joke is we are assessing what is socially acceptable, what is socially unacceptable, and we are dancing across that line between the two, which is where there's kind of this titillation of like and humor, and what is deemed socially acceptable in terms of sanity or insanity, what is deemed socially sane or odd. And given again my mental health history, for me, that's why it always appealed, and why the Fringe needed to be the fringe of society. And then in 2018 and definitely 2019, there were loads of people coming up that I'd flyer on the streets, and they'd be saying, "Oh no, we're not here to see shows. We're here to drink." And it'd be like, well, but that's not what the Fringe is. You know, the Fringe is the world's biggest arts festival, and art exists, like, as I've always say, and I still say, it does without an audience. Who am I doing it for? Like, it's just me in a dark room, and that means absolutely nothing. I can have all the sellout shows and 5-star reviews and awards that I like, or that anyone wants to give to me. But if the audience don't show up, then there's no laughter, and that's just me crying in a dark room. And I've done that enough in my life. So no, it has changed a lot. And I do see that a lot of my peers, they nailed social media during the pandemic, and they built on it. They grew it. Some of my best friends have done exceptionally well and grafted hard with that. I struggled with the technology. I also struggled with my mental well-being. And I also struggled with this realization that if I didn't have my audiences, I didn't know who I was. So yeah, as you began with this earlier, the old school, you said when I was doing the radio interview that it was very old school in that I hit the beats. I said everything I needed to say in a really short space of time. I knew we had 5 to 10 minutes interview. So I made sure I got the most important things in quick, hopefully a bit of humor, hopefully a bit of my personality. But it is old school. I'm good at that old school stuff. I'm now I'm not going to give up, but I'm wanting to develop my creative practice, develop my engagement of how to engage with audiences now, because it has changed so dramatically. And I take the matter of being funny very seriously. So I want to engage with audiences and those people that need this.
One of the things we've discussed in previous episodes is the Fringe being a month, and Stu Goldsmith said it's almost like kind of climbing a mountain. You do it as a challenge because it's there. Why on earth you'd do that's just such a big commitment in terms of time, money, mental energy, and so on. I mean, you're doing 10 days. Was that reduce the cost, reduce the risk, fitting it in with other things? Was it like a definite decision that a month's too much?
So I will be completely honest with you. It's yes to all of those factors. And also, I don't know what the Fringe is like now. I haven't been up for 4 years, and I want to be up there and with the idea. My main goal this year is to see what it is now. Like, is it still, like, I know that comedy is me, and I'm going to keep doing that. And I know that these other fringes, like MacFest, ABBAFest, Bed Fringe, Guildford Fringe, all these other festivals, they do exist. So there is a festival network. It's not the same as Edinburgh, because Edinburgh is where you can have this longer run. It's the world's biggest art festival. It's where I've met, I got opportunities to perform in Australia and New Zealand because of the contacts I made up there. And it's meant to be a kind of beautiful networking opportunity, an investment in your career. Corporate gigs can come off of the reviews and the success that you might have, or the perceived success you might have. I love it. I'm going up though also not only to reassess whether that is what it is, or whether it's different. Maybe audiences, as you say, maybe they've already decided before they get up there, or whether it still fits me, whether not that I fit it, that it's what it has become still fit who I have become as an artist. And I'm also going up definitely to save money for a shorter run. I've done it once before. So back in 2018, because this show's been going, I've been doing it at these smaller festivals, sold out at Nottingham Comedy Festival, sold out at MacFest, sold out at Leicester Comedy Festival. It's there, it's a show. I'm not going up with an unfinished show. It's ready, and I love it. It's also not my latest stuff, which I'm already preparing for Nottingham Comedy Festival for a new show. So it's not going to be the kind of run where I'm like, I'm going to perfect this. I mean, every day it's going to evolve and be different. But I, back in 2018, did another short run, which then launched into a national tour. And we're doing the same this year, to mean that, because I like to work with a beautiful PR guy called Paul Sullivan, and he is doing the PR for that kind of batch of shows, if you like. So yeah, it's definitely to save money. I'm staying on the floor of a study of one of my friends from when I lived up there, and they live they live a 20-minute train ride away from Edinburgh. So, and they've got 2 kids, so I have no idea if I'm going to get any sleep, but that's the only way I can make it work. I love this. And I'm also, because of the pandemic, I realized I needed to adjust the way that I lived, because all of my live work was, suddenly taken away from me in 2020. And as much as we tried to resuscitate, the live gigs that I had booked in, that not all of them came back. Some of them did, but some of them switched to virtual. And then you got the malaise of the Zoom fatigue. So I still have some virtual stuff. I still have a lot of live stuff, and it's, some people are still booking again, which is wonderful. but I have a day job now. I ended up working as an usher at the National Theatre for a while. I ended up working in a pub for a while. I ended up working at Borough Market for a while. And then I was a cafe manager for about 6 months. And then I am now, I have a wonderful day job that I love, working as a copywriter for a mental health charity. And they are super supportive of my comedy career. And I believe that my line manager is coming to see me at Bedford Fringe. At Bedford Fringe, they're so wonderful, and I love them all. I also honour that commitment, and so I'll be working remotely up in Edinburgh, doing that day job, and then going to Flyer and then perform every day. And yeah, the rest of August, I also intend to either continue just focusing on that day job, or maybe even having a little holiday. That would be quite nice. Yeah, I guess I bring all that into the commercialization and the talk of cost of money. Like a few years ago, I was very conscious. All my friends were getting married, having children. That's where their money was going. They were buying houses. I have consciously decided again and again, here's the money I have. Am I going to take myself on holiday? Am I going to start saving up for a house? No, I'm going to Edinburgh Fringe, and I'm investing in the arts because I need it it's like air to breathe. And so I would say to anybody considering going into the arts, don't do what I've done. I'm a cautionary tale. Don't do that. Do it differently. But yeah, I'm trying to do it differently now. I'm trying to approach it differently and take my sweet time with creating shows. Although I have so many ideas.
As well as a Edinburgh Fringe show, we talked about her podcast series, Not So Lonely Planet, how it came about and the themes for the episodes.
Really interesting. Yeah, I've kind of listened to a couple of the episodes. Listened to the one on Tower Bridge, or kind of going around London, and the Sixes one. And they're, content's good. They're very well made as well. You can hear podcasts that are a bit of a kind of homemade, and then there's ones like that where you can kind of see the work that's got into it, the sound design, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a kind of different kind of level of a podcast.
Yeah, well, all of that I have to say is hats off to the amazing team at Hat Trick. That's like Andy Goddard, John Wakefield, and the amazing exec producer. Amazing team, so caring and loving, and I just loved working with them. Yeah, well, it was one where came off the back of years of kind of nurturing those relationships, and Andy knowing me from previous projects that I'd written, and then it was before the pandemic we got it commissioned, and literally I think the February or I think it was the February of that year, or March, early March. And we're like, this is great. This is the idea behind it. This is what we want. It's a kind of like a chain reaction of me meeting somebody who's super enthusiastic about something. So a nerd who loves one aspect of this planet, something very, very niche. We learn all about that and about that person. And then at the end of the episode, they recommend somebody else who has made them super excited about something they never thought they could be excited about. And we meet that person in the next episode. So it's meant to be a kind of chain reaction. And I loved doing it, loved recording it, loved everything about it. However, it got commissioned in early 2020, and episode 1 wasn't recorded until it was November 2020. And then the episode 6 was this year, was like March 2023, and very strange in that most of the stuff that I create is very like responsive to what's going on now, and this one's very much more like it's evergreen. And because of that kind of nature of this can't be a kind of response to this moment. It has to be existing beyond time. And yeah, I love doing it, and I'm hoping we might be able to make a few more episodes. It really does need to find the people, the right people for it, really. And I think that again, like it's different now. It's the fact it's even that a lot of podcasts. So many people have podcasts, and commercializing that as well is a new game. Everything has changed. So it's a real time, an opportunity for learning and an opportunity to do something different. And I'm interested to see how to shed the skin of the past and find a brand new way forward, not the way that's being dictated by others. By the man, the algorithms, anything like whatever you want to call it, but to find out the new fringes, when I say the new fringes, I mean the new areas of society that we can have these important discussions away from commercialization. Having said that, I do also need to make enough money to live day to day. So please pay artists and please honor their work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting that you kind of saying before, you kind of use social media quite different to other people, where others will kind of play the numbers game. You will almost hunt people down and kind of try and build that relationship one-on-one. I mean, how have you found it with the podcast and trying to get the word out about that?
In all honesty, again, when the podcast was released, I'd had pneumonia so I firstly struggled last year for a while with mental health, and then I had got shingles, and then I got pneumonia as the podcast was being released. So it was like all my body and my mind were just like, nope, we're not gonna play. So I honestly had to, for the good of my health, go, okay, what will be. This will find the audience it needs to at some point. I can't push this because I don't have the energy. And I needed to prioritize health, because without that, none of us have anything. So I do think that fact that my audience members, they are so loyal, and they really are people who have invested in me and my journey, and they found something of themselves in what I've been creating. They're the reasons why I love this, and I still love the fact that there'll just be these people that will see me perform even on a 10 minutes, 5 minute set, and they'll be like, there's something, and they just gravitate, they're magnetized to something, and then that's it. They're a part of the team from then on. So those people they love the podcast. They're sharing it. But honestly, I'm kind of like, I'm struggling with the whole, I have a hunger to create, and I have a hunger to get certain messages and activist messages out there. I'm just putting a big question mark. I don't think I'm fully baked yet. I think I'm still in that gestation period of we're rebuilding, and I'm rebuilding, and society has changed, and I'm quite content right now to ever so slightly sit back and go, I'm witnessing this, I'm observing this, ready for the next era, the next phase. I'm just not right now. I think my show's phenomenal, and I think that the podcast is phenomenal. I think the audiences are phenomenal, and we'll love both of them. But I feel like I'm ever so slightly holding myself back, because when the time is right, there's going to be a massive force from me in a direction that I feel passionately about. And right now is not the exact time for that. Right now is let's enjoy what we have right now.
Okay, so keeping your powder dry, and there's going to be a big explosion sometime in the future.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm very much in a kind of, I'm observing, learning, and trying to absorb and process, there's going to be another phase, and I can feel it coming. Like, I've recently had a few writing days where I've just sat down and away from day job, and it's just all poured out of me in a way that I've not experienced in years before. And it seems very, very pure and funny and passionate. And it's like, I just need to process what the fuck has gone on in the last few years and all the things we're talking about as well. And I then know that the next thing is going to be like, right, here's where we go. Because I've always felt with my previous shows, unlike some other people, but for me, it's like the activism sort of comes first. The comedy is right up there, because if something needs to change in society, you've got to point it out. And comedy is the best way to make it transparently clear how fucked up our society is. So with all of my previous shows, it's like the call to action, like the people need to leave knowing that they have something to do now. Like, here's what you do. Not just, oh, that was a fun hour, or not just, oh, she's really moved me. It's right now, you're going to go off and do this thing to change for the better, if you agree with what we've said. And right now I'm just kind of, this show, the call to action is to just appreciate how amazing it is that we've survived, right? Like, this is phenomenal that we've all survived this, and our brains are incredible, and come and learn about neuroscience in this geeky, sciencey show that is funny. But then the next show is going to be this kind of like, I've already got a name. It's called Going Rogue, and it's going to be about like where we get our power from. And I feel like right now I'm answering that question for myself. Where am I getting my power from? And I'm kind of taking it all in, ready to, superpower this, level up.
Thanks for listening. There's details about Juliette's show No Brainer in the show notes, along with details of the Lot So Lonely Planet podcast, as well as our interview with BBC Surrey that we mentioned in the episode. If you enjoyed this, check out our other episodes where we speak to a number of performers about their experiences at the Edinburgh Fringe, as well as with creatives in other industries about making creativity pay.